They looked like the perfect family from the outside, but behind closed doors, a secret was growing. A secret so disturbing that when the truth finally surfaced, even seasoned detectives struggled to believe it, because this wasn't a random murder. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was something far worse. A carefully planned attack involving betrayal, obsession, greed, and a daughter accused of helping orchestrate the brutal killing of her own mother. This is the horrifying case of Teresa Keel.
After being brutally beaten into a coma in Long Beach 2 years ago, Teresa Keel is dead.
I've been involved in a lot of big cases, but this was the worst that I've ever seen.
Long Island, New York, a place known for its quiet neighborhoods, oceanfront boardwalks, and families who spend generations building lives together. It was the kind of place where people knew their neighbors, where children walked to school, and where violent crime rarely shattered the peace. Among the most respected members of the community was Teresa Keel. For decades, she dedicated her life to education. She wasn't simply a teacher. To many students, she was a mentor, a guide, and a source of stability during difficult years. Parents trusted her. Colleagues admired her. Students remembered her long after leaving her classroom. Over the years, Teresa worked her way up through the Malvern School District, eventually becoming an assistant principal. Even while balancing work and family, she continued pushing herself, earning a doctorate and creating programs to help disadvantaged children succeed academically. Her life appeared to be built on service, sacrifice, and love. She was married to David Keel, a respected dentist. Together they raised 2 children, Vincent and Francesca. Friends described them as a close family. Even after tragedy struck and David unexpectedly passed away, Teresa refused to let grief consume her household. She became both mother and father to her children, working tirelessly to provide them opportunities and stability. By 2016, it seemed her years of struggle had finally paid off. Vincent was pursuing technology ventures and app development. Francesca had graduated school and was beginning adulthood. Teresa had survived loss, built a successful career, and maintained the respect of an entire community. Then came the night that destroyed everything. On December 4th, 2016, around 10:30 p.m., Long Beach resident Franklin Cosma was finishing a workout. He had gone jogging near the famous oceanfront boardwalk when something caught his attention across the street. A woman was approaching the entrance of an apartment building. Nothing seemed unusual at first. Then a second figure appeared. A tall man dressed in dark clothing followed closely behind her. The moment the woman stepped inside the building's entrance corridor, the man rushed after her. Seconds later, screams exploded into the night. Franklin immediately knew something was wrong. He sprinted toward the building. As he reached the glass entrance, he witnessed a horrifying scene. The man was repeatedly striking the woman in the head with a heavy object, again and again, relentlessly, violently. Franklin burst through the doors. The attacker looked up. For a brief second, their eyes met. Then the man dropped the weapon and fled through a side exit into the darkness. Franklin faced a split-second choice: chase the suspect or save the victim. He chose the victim. The woman lay crumpled on the floor, barely conscious and surrounded by blood. Other residents began emerging from their apartments as Franklin shouted for someone to call 911. Once help arrived, he attempted to pursue the attacker, but the man already had too much of a head start. Within moments, he vanished into the night. Police and emergency crews flooded the scene. The victim was identified as 54-year-old Teresa Keel. The injuries were catastrophic. She had suffered devastating trauma to her skull, face, and brain. Investigators immediately realized this wasn't an ordinary assault. This was an execution attempt. As forensic teams processed the scene, the evidence painted a disturbing picture. Teresa's purse remained untouched. Her wallet was still there. Even her takeout dinner had spilled across the floor, with napkins and utensils scattered around the entrance. Nothing had been stolen. Robbery was ruled out almost immediately. Then investigators noticed something even more chilling. A nearby wall contained a massive dent covered in blood. Whatever weapon had been used carried tremendous force. This attack wasn't spontaneous. It was personal. Franklin described the attacker as a tall male, approximately 6'3" or 6'4", wearing a hooded jacket, winter cap, and face covering. He also pointed detectives toward the route the suspect had taken while escaping. That detail would prove critical. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses soon confirmed Franklin's account. Cameras captured the suspect fleeing through the streets carrying what appeared to be a dark gym bag. Detectives immediately became suspicious. Why carry a gym bag during an attack? The answer seemed obvious. Preparation. Whoever committed this crime likely planned it in advance. Hours later, officers discovered something hidden behind a fenced alleyway near the suspect's escape route. Sitting atop a garbage bin was a metal dumbbell weight stained with blood. The weapon had been found. Testing would later confirm investigators' suspicions. The blood belonged to Teresa Keel. Meanwhile, doctors fought desperately to keep Teresa alive. Her family rushed to the hospital. Among them was her son, Vincent. Detectives spoke with him while surgeons worked nearby. Vincent explained that he and his mother had eaten dinner together earlier that evening. Everything seemed normal. They laughed, talked, and eventually went their separate ways. Neither knew it would be their final meal together. Then detectives asked a simple question. Where was Francesca? Vincent admitted he had tried contacting his sister multiple times but received no response. At first, that didn't seem unusual. Then he revealed something investigators couldn't ignore. Months earlier, Francesca had become involved with a man named Ralph Keppler. The relationship created a major rift within the family. Ironically, Ralph had once been one of Vincent's closest friends. A corrections officer working in New York City, Ralph also shared Vincent's interest in technology and business. When Vincent began developing a college dating application, Ralph and his family invested approximately $130,000 into the project. Initially, everything seemed promising. Then the partnership collapsed. Deadlines were missed. Progress stalled. Arguments erupted. At the same time, Teresa discovered Ralph had secretly been dating Francesca for more than a year. The relationship immediately became a source of conflict. Teresa strongly disapproved. Francesca refused to end it. Eventually, she moved into Ralph's home. Despite the family tension, detectives initially saw no reason to connect them to the attack. Arguments and relationship disputes happen every day. Few end in attempted murder. Still, investigators visited the couple's residence. Both Ralph and Francesca appeared shocked by the police visit. Separated and questioned individually, they told nearly identical stories. They claimed they spent the evening wrapping Christmas presents and watching football. Even more convincing, Francesca provided photographs from social media showing exactly that. The timestamps appeared devastatingly helpful to their defense. The images placed them at home during the precise window when Teresa was attacked. For the moment, their alibi held. But during questioning, Ralph introduced a new possibility. According to him, the real motive belonged to someone else. He claimed Vincent had mishandled investor money connected to the failed app project. Ralph alleged that investors were angry and believed funds had been misused by Vincent and Teresa. Some had even pursued legal action. Suddenly, investigators had another direction. Could an enraged investor have sought revenge? Detectives spent weeks interviewing individuals connected to the business venture. The theory quickly fell apart. Most investors reported little concern. Several had already recovered their money. None displayed the rage or desperation Ralph described. The investigation stalled. Then everything changed. Phone records arrived. Among thousands of communications, one name appeared repeatedly: Ralph Keppler. Detectives discovered months of hostile messages directed toward Teresa. Texts, emails, threats, accusations. The communications revealed a man consumed by resentment. Ralph repeatedly accused Teresa of stealing money and ruining his future. The volume of messages shocked investigators. Now they reviewed surveillance footage again, this time with a different perspective. The suspect's height, his build, his posture, the way he moved. Everything resembled Ralph. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Yet suspicion alone wouldn't secure an arrest. Detectives needed proof. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place: Francesca's phone records. During analysis, investigators noticed a call placed weeks before the attack to a company called SpyTech. When detectives contacted the company, they uncovered a devastating piece of evidence. A GPS tracking device had been purchased using Francesca's credit card. What happened next transformed the entire case. SpyTech provided location data linked to the device. The tracker repeatedly traveled between only two locations: Teresa's apartment and Teresa's workplace. Someone had secretly attached a GPS tracker to her vehicle. Someone had been monitoring her movements for weeks. Search warrants soon uncovered dozens of automated GPS notifications inside Francesca's email account. Every movement Teresa made triggered alerts. Every departure, every arrival, every routine stop. The realization was terrifying. This wasn't impulsive violence. It was stalking. It was surveillance. It was planning. Additional phone location records made the situation even worse. Detectives discovered patterns showing Ralph and Francesca repeatedly appearing near the same locations as the tracker. Investigators concluded they were maintaining the device themselves, replacing batteries and ensuring it continued transmitting information. The carefully constructed alibi now began collapsing. Then another crucial detail surfaced. Minutes after the attack, a call was placed from Francesca's phone to a Long Beach taxi company. Detectives obtained company records. The driver vividly remembered the passenger. He climbed into the back seat and crouched low, seemingly trying to conceal his face. He requested transportation to a train station, then handed over a $20 bill for a $5 fare and told the driver to keep the change. Surveillance cameras captured portions of the journey. The passenger matched the fleeing suspect, and investigators believed that passenger was Ralph Keppler. The evidence continued growing. DNA testing produced another devastating result. Genetic material recovered from the dumbbell weapon matched Ralph. Teresa's blood was also present. The case finally had its killer. On January 24, 2018, Ralph Keppler was arrested while working at Rikers Island. The corrections officer who once enforced the law now found himself accused of attempted murder. But investigators still faced a difficult question. What role did Francesca play? Prosecutors believed she was far more than a bystander. Her internet search history painted a disturbing picture. Authorities discovered searches involving DNA evidence, methods of murder, and questions about vulnerable areas of the human skull. Combined with the GPS tracker, taxi call, and surveillance evidence, the case against her strengthened dramatically. Meanwhile, Teresa remained trapped in a vegetative state. For nearly 2 years, her family watched and waited. There would be no recovery, no miracle, no return to the life she once knew. On November 10, 2018, Teresa Keel died from the injuries inflicted during the attack.
A barbaric and deadly barbell beating on Long Island. The victim struck several times in the head with a metal barbell in December of 2016. For 2 years, she lived in a vegetative state from her severe brain injury. And then on Saturday, she died.
The attempted murder case instantly became a homicide investigation. Prosecutors now believe they understood exactly what happened. According to their theory, Francesca and Ralph purchased a GPS tracker and monitored Teresa's movements for weeks. When alerts showed Teresa heading out on the evening of December 4th, Ralph traveled to Long Beach and waited near her apartment. As Teresa returned home, he followed her into the building and ambushed her with a metal barbell. While he carried out the attack, prosecutors alleged Francesca worked to preserve the illusion that both were safely at home. Together, they believed they had created the perfect crime. Instead, they left behind a trail of digital evidence that investigators slowly uncovered piece by piece. Faced with overwhelming proof, both defendants eventually accepted plea agreements. Ralph Keppler pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, conspiracy, and weapons charges. In June 2020, he received a sentence of 22 years to life in prison. Francesca pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter for her role in the plot and received a 13-year sentence. The woman who spent decades helping children build better futures never got the chance to enjoy the life she worked so hard to create. Instead, Her story became one of the most shocking betrayals imaginable. A respected educator, a devoted mother, a brutal ambush, and a murder investigation that revealed something almost impossible to comprehend. Because in the end, the person Teresa spent her life protecting was accused of helping track her movements, plan her attack, and cover the killer's escape. For detectives, it was one of the most disturbing cases they had ever encountered. For the community, it shattered every assumption about family, trust, and loyalty. And for everyone who followed the investigation, one question still lingers long after the verdicts were delivered. How does a family fall so far apart that a daughter becomes connected to the murder of her own mother? Some crimes are horrifying because of the violence. Others are horrifying because of the motive. But the Teresa Keel case remains unforgettable because it combined both, creating a story so bizarre, tragic, and disturbing that it still feels impossible to believe.